Hi, I'm Nick with Hayneedle, and today I'm going to walk you through the 10 simple steps to assemble your versatile Beldin Craft Table. After you've carefully unpacked everything, it's time to take an inventory by comparing everything you see before you with the parts and hardware list located in the directions. Also, a quick note, you'll need the M4 and M5 Allen wrench to complete this task, as well as the not included screwdriver or cordless drill with screwdriver bit. For step 1, which is completing the insert for the upper shelf of the utility rack, you'll need 3 parts. The number 3 part, number 4, and the 2 number 5s. You'll also need from the hardware list your letter A, which is the wooden dowel, and you'll need 6 of those. Important to note before you get started, there is a veneer side and a non-veneer side. Now this will be going down so you can secure it to the top of the shelf. So when you're lining these parts up, make sure that you either have the veneer side up or down. Let's get started. The process is quite simple. Simply insert the dowels into the number 5 part, slip on the number 4, complete for the other side. Once you've built the H, insert the dowels into the other divider. Voila, ready for step 2. This step, you'll need a few things. You'll need the number 12, which is easy to spot because it has these holes for securing the insert, as well as 5 letter E's, which are the 25 millimeter. They're easy to spot because they have the largest thread of these small screws, and also a non-included Phillips head screwdriver. For this step, you could lay the shelf flat, or you could lay it on top of this piece with the veneer side facing away. I like to prop mine up sideways so I can rough it in. It's easy enough with a couple encyclopedias if you still have them laying around. So simply take the number 5. I like to pre-insert the screw to make sure that I'm lining up with this pre-existing hole, making sure that the 2 holes that will go into the number 3 are facing inward. Find it and secure it. For the second number 5, make sure the holes again are facing inside. And when securing this, secure only the top, so then you can swing in this number 3 with the dowels and insert it into place, as it does not have a secure for the bottom. To finish this task, again, make sure the veneer is facing up. Insert wooden dowels, line up the hole, and tighten, and then secure with the Phillips head screwdriver. Once you're finished with this, you'll be able to move on to step 3, which is attaching the side rails. You'll see that you need the number 2 side rail and the number 13. Now the 13 has 3 sets of holes, 2 for the secures and then 1 in the center for the dowels, and the number 2 has 2 for the secures. You'll also need these letter A's, which is the wooden dowels, 10 of those, and then also the letter K, which is 4 inserts for the cams. Now for convenience, we've already inserted the 4 cams, and you'll see those. Those are letter C. To begin, you'll take your letter K, insert it into the plastic insert located on the rail, hand tighten, and then secure with a Phillips head screwdriver. Once that's secure, you'll repeat for all 4 holes. Then you'll insert the wooden dowels, as you can see, top and bottom above the secures. And then, of course, on the other side, you'll need 6. There's a couple points of interest to note about this part. You're going to be needing to line some things up. So first of all, we'll talk about the cam. You'll see this arrow that's pointing out. That simply means that the insert is going to be going in this side of the cam. Also, the plus and minus means simply that you tighten toward the plus and loosen towards the minus. You'll also see this cutout that needs to line up with this edge. So as we do that, it's best to just hook it on the bottom, line up those holes and inserts, turn, and now As I noted before, simply turn to tighten. To finish up this process, again, you're going to need to line up the slot and make sure that these inserts are going to line to the hole. You'll also need a short Phillips head. So, making sure all of those holes are lined up and the wooden dowels sink in. Prop it up to show you. Again, toward the plus sign. Both sides are secure. You're ready for step 4, which is assembling the bottom shelf. Now for this, of course, you'll need your Phillips head screwdriver. You'll need your L, which is your M4 Allen wrench. You also need the J hardware, which is the 1.5" Allen bolt. You'll need the B, which is this cross dowel nut. You'll need 2 of those. Also the letter A, you'll need 2, the wooden dowels. As well, for the parts, you'll need your number 11, which is the divider. Number 7, which is the back side, and number 18, which is the front, and of course, 15, the base of the shelf. Let's begin with this cross dowel nut. Now this is a great option for securing, as it is very versatile and very easy to use. What you're going to want to do is simply line up this hole with the 1.5" Allen bolt. It also has a Phillips head. Adjust, so if you need to make any minor adjustments while securing, you can. So with the wooden dowel in place and both veneers facing up, line up the hole. On the other side, insert your 1.5" Allen bolt, hand secure. Make sure you're not stripping any threads, and then tighten with the Allen wrench. Again, not too tight as to strip, but tight enough to secure. The next part is to take the base, making sure that this lip is facing down so you have a pristine up. Slide it into place, and then you'll simply repeat the first step on the opposite side to complete. But once you're finished securing this last bolt, you're ready to move on to step 5, which is completing the utility tower. Now for this, you'll need, of course, the bottom shelf that's already been built, the top shelf that we built earlier. Moving on to the parts list, we have the number 6 shelf side, all 3 number 14s. The side of the towers are number 1 and 22, and then we have the 2 15s, which are the shelf basins. Also, these letter B's or cross dowel nuts, you'll need 32 of those, and the remaining 32 J's, which are the 1.5" Allen bolts, and also all 16 of these metal dowels, which are letter R. Before we start the next step, I want to make a note that it's important to lay these parts out according to the diagram to make it easier further down in the process. So beginning with this bottom shelf, if you remember back to step 4, we had part number 18 that had this extra hole. Now that will come into play later, but it's important to keep that side up through this whole step. Also, parts number 22 and number 1 are the sides of the shelf. And I'll make a quick note about that as well. Check your labels, make sure they're numbered correctly, but just to make sure, you see that the bottom shelf holes line up, second from the bottom line up, and the top line up. Now this third from the bottom or second from the top, it's going to have an offset. That means that the top is going to be about a half step down. Now that's important. It's important to keep this side up. So for this step, you'll need these cross dowel nuts. You need 4 of them, and you'll also need 4 of your 1.5" Allen bolts, as well as your M4 Allen wrench. Now making sure that the holes line up, simply insert these into the slots. An important note, as you always know, there's an insert, so those tuck in nicely. So this being the outside, and this flat surface, the inside. Line up the holes. Hand secure so as not to strip the threads. and then finish with your Allen wrench. Then just repeat the next 3. Once you've secured all 4 connections, it's time to do the same process to the other side. Of course, making sure that the outside and inside are in the proper place. When you've secured this, it's time to secure the top shelf as well. Once you've finished securing the top shelf, it's time to move on to the offset shelf. Now, making sure that part 18 is still on the top and the holes that are set a half step down are on top as well. You're going to secure part number 14, making sure that this slot is facing down. So with that checked, we simply attach like we had before. So once the first rail is secure, you're ready to put the number 6 on, as well as the shelf. So making sure that the finished edge is on top. Of course, that means this hard edge is going to be on the bottom. Slide it into place. All right. Now the trick here, of course, this rail goes right down the middle, so you make sure that this middle hole for the Allen bolt is facing toward the top. Then you line up the holes and secure. After you're finished with that, you're ready to move down to the second from the bottom. Now with this, you have 2 number 14s, so you just have to make sure that the rails are facing down. Secure like we've shown you. And once you're finished securing that second to last shelf, it's time to insert all of these metal dowels. Now, you'll see they just slip right into these holes underneath the shelves, and they're really there for support. Now, step 6, you'll need your back plate, number 16. You'll also need both of these number 21s, which are the side rails that are going to give the back rail support. You'll also need the remaining 4 E screws, and also all 16 of these D screws. Now, as you can see, the side rail here, you have the end that wants to go connected to the wall, and then also the insert. So easy to tell, you have a small opening and a large opening. Make sure that screw goes through the large opening. Simply line up the hole, take your screwdriver, Phillips head, secure, repeat for the other side, and then duplicate on the opposite. Now once the side rails are secure, it's time for the back plate. The key being lining up these holes with the proper holes that you have on this piece number 6. So once you've found those, you take the D screw and you follow the pattern around, making sure to secure tightly. Once the last screw is in place, it's time to move on to step 7, which is building the main table support. As far as parts, you'll need the 2 main table legs, numbers 9 and 23, the main support on the bottom, number 10, and both of these 19s, which are going to be the bars that you put the paper on. For hardware, you'll need these 2 I Allen bolts, as well as these pull screws, and of course, your M4 Allen wrench. Just a note before we begin, you will need 2 of these wooden dowels as well as these cross dowel nuts. Now, attaching these is going to be very simple, but I want to make sure that you have everything lined up. So the key is to make sure that this angle cut with the 2 female ends for screws are going to be up and toward the inside. Same with this side, up and towards the inside. That way when you're attaching this, everything will line up when you actually attach it to the tabletop. So beginning with these holes up, you can see the other side not have those holes. We insert the cross dowel nut Insert the dowel, line into place, make sure it's lined up, tighten, and then repeat for the other side. Once the base is secure, it's going to give you a nice solid frame so that you can insert these two metal paper dowels. Now you're going to take your pull screw, line up the hole, and simply secure. Before I finish this step, I want to make a quick note. The actual secure position is embedded inside the leg. This makes it so you can tighten and still have a paper roll that rolls for you. So when you've finished that and you're all secure, you are ready to move on to step 8, which is securing the support leg to the top of the table. Of course, you'll need the number 17, top of the table. You'll need all 4 of your H Allen bolts, all 4 P and Q washers, and of course, your M5 Allen wrench. So starting out with the tabletop upside down, you start with the pre-built leg setup that we did in step 7, turning it upside down, of course, and simply sliding it into place. Now while you're securing it with your hand, you take your Allen bolts with washers on the outside, of course your spring load and then your flat washer. You hand line it up and then secure till it's tight. And once you're finished securing the leg to the top of the table, of course being careful not to over tighten so you don't strip, you're ready to move on to step 9, which is attaching the table to the utility shelf. This is very simple. What you're going to need is the number 8 piece. That's going to be a stay bar between the shelf and the leg. You'll also need these eye bolts, 4 of them. You'll need your J bolt, 3 of those. Also, this cross dowel nut, you'll need 6, 2 wooden dowels, and of course, your M4 Allen wrench. So before we begin this next step, it's important to note that this process will be much easier if you do ask for help from someone, but I'm using my trusty encyclopedias today. So, to attach the eye bolt to the main tabletop, we're going to first make sure that when you're lining it up, that the tabletop is actually going to slide in between the main supports. Then simply line it up. If you move down, you can see me taking my CDN, sliding it into place, making sure it's turned right, and then secure. Now once you've secured all 4 bolts, it's time to move on to the main stay bar. Now this is just as consistent as what we've been doing before. You'll see where the CDN goes in. Make sure lining up that hole. The wooden dowel. And then it is simply just a matter of lining up that hole. Hand securing on the inside. And then finishing with your M4 Allen wrench. So after securing that second bolt on the mainstay, you have 1 more J bolt. It's going to go right into the main body. So just secure with your hand and then use your M4 to tighten. With a main body constructed, it's time for step 10, which includes a few final touches and 1 last support. This is support M, and you'll need 8 of these G screws. All you need to do is find the pre-drilled location, take your screw, hand tighten, and then secure with a Phillips head screwdriver. With the angle bar installed, it's time to move on to the final 2 steps of this process. The first being the ruler. Simply line up the holes with the pre-drilled holes, making sure that the numbers face away from you so you can properly measure your fabric. Insert the screws and tighten with your Phillips head. Now that that's secured, they save the best for last. Simply insert into the paper slot and you are finished. There you have it, a craft center that's built to take on anything you can throw at it. Enjoy your Beldin Craft Table.